Yeah, I'm tough. I'm very type A. So, and I think that's why I make a good producer, because I do have my checklist and I do get things done. And if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna get it done. So I think that people who know me appreciate that. Not sure my husband always does, because it's like, oh my God, take a break, lady. I think that when I see somebody similar, and not necessarily that has the same exact style,
Right.
but the work ethic of the responsibility and the willingness and the excitement and the passion, then that's a match. So
They come from your tribe.
yeah, exactly.
yes.
And and the people who, like I said, a lot of the people who I've been working with recently has been people who were in New York. So that even if I didn't work with them there, I know them from then. And it's like, oh, yes, these are my peeps, But I have made very, very good relationships here in LA, which I'm very excited about.
I'm a connector at heart, so I think that's my superpower. If I see, there's an opportunity for someone, I'm gonna share. I'm not gonna. Why keep it? Why keep that information if that person may need it? That might help that individual get to where their goals. Of course, I'm going to share it. I think that's my superpower. And the other one is keep simple.
Keep it simple.
I learned the craft of acting, and that gave me a huge edge in being able to work with actors. I'm an actor's director. I've been called that. I definitely consider myself that because I know the language. My job is to build the confidence and get as much of who they are into the character. That's what I tried to do. So I had that, going in. And then in terms of directing, when we were at this acting academy, we had to direct our own scenes. And I was always, at the time, I wanted to be an actor, right? But directing came so easy. I could see it very clearly, how this should be blocked. I wasn't really taught anything. And so I brought those principles, to filmmaking. There's usually a 2-week rehearsal I have with the actors on a stage. And we'll talk about character and relationships so that when we do get to set, because they have, a maximum of 5 takes, but sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 1. But when I lay that foundation down, it makes the film work, because film can be so technical sometimes, it can make it go by a little easier.
I was working on the George Lopez show as a writer, producer, and I would go to castings. I got incredibly upset and disillusioned, and because people would come in, nail it. I mean, nail the character, nail the audition. You're like, it's gotta be this guy, or this woman. Our executive producer would go, yeah, they really nailed it, but you know what? He would overthink it, and he'd go, maybe we should go opposite, and get something twisted a little, and not have someone who nailed the jokes, nailed the character, nailed what we had in mind. Let's go against the type of this. And it never worked. And what would happen is somebody else would get cast. It wasn't their fault. The jokes wouldn't work. We'd have to change jokes. And then we'd have to reduce the jokes. And finally, what would end up happening is the executive producer would go, you see, day players are just awful to work with. They just don't bring it. And it was like, no, I saw this happen. I saw how this happened. And it was depressing.
When I came back to New York, I was prepared to shoot it in 2013 with no money, but I was trying to raise money. And originally we were trying to raise like $200,000 to make the movie. It was really hard to raise $200,000 to make that movie. I mean, it was just, so I was like growing a beard. I was not well health-wise. I wasn't seeing my family. My daughter was just born. And I think my wife just had to sit down with me like, what the hell? Look at you. I was looking like Tom Hanks and
Wilson. Yes.
Me and Wilson were there just trying to make this movie. So anyways, I just decided to pull the plug on it because I have a lot of people in my corner. Like I have a spiritual family and a spiritual teacher who just kind of, she was like, you got to stop. You got to stop and you got to listen. And you got to take the time to do it correctly. So in 2014, we shot the movie. And we ended up shooting between in-kind sponsorships and actual physical money. Like I used my own money and some of it we raised. It probably ended up costing us about $62,000 to pay for everything. That was probably my film school. I learned how to direct and edit with the shorter projects, but this was my film school because I got my ass kicked on so many levels. I really put myself through the ringer. I wasn't sleeping, it was a tough time, and I didn't give up. I kept making the movie, and a lot of good came from it. But I think looking forward, and the advice I always give people is, you don't have to make a movie that way, especially not today. Make a movie within your means. Be realistic. You can still make a movie. It's fine. Just don't kill yourself in the process.
Any filmmaker who really has a tremendous amount of good work, they need to partner with a loudmouth.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
need to partner with somebody who can toot their horn and has that business savvy to say, you know what, we do better if we stream through Vimeo as opposed to Amazon.
Right.
We do better if we do it this way. Let's go ahead and prepackage our own product and sell it on our website.
I always tell people, I said, look, success in this business is two things. It's you doing the work, and then the person that can get you to that next level, them noticing. It's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. I haven't met that person yet, but I've continued to do the work. But I'm striving to get up here. You know what I mean? I think a lot of times I'm seeing people, independent filmmakers, that they're more concerned about having something to post on social media, that they're doing something. So I'm seeing a lot of people start things but not finish them. And when they do finish them, more care has been put into the red carpet gala than the actual film.
And I fell in love with producing because I kind of saw people's talents and say, okay, I think you should ask this person to film for you, or this director. And then, I'm always asking how much those things cost.
So necessary. You must know budget. Oh, Lord Jesus. You got to know the budget.
I'm sorry. You want to get that camera? How much that is? A day?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what the producer does. I mean, one of the many hats the producer wears is to know the budget of everything.
There was a case here where we were on set, we're shooting, and we had to cast a really important part for Just Add Magic. And the director's directing, and I'm sitting there. I said, well, I'll look through the castings. And I see these pictures in there of women, and some of them look too glamorous, to this, to that. But I had made myself that promise, so I'm going through all of them. The very last one looked nothing like what we thought. And her picture was too glamorous. She was very done up, and I'm like, that's absolutely not the part. She gave an amazing reading. She looked nothing like the thumbnail picture that was there, and it would have never been opened by other people. And she ended up being a recurrent. She did about 6 to 8 episodes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of young filmmakers have to understand is that as a director, you are taking the responsibility of somebody. You are opening them. Mm-hmm. So they have to trust you. And that's crucial for an actor. If you're directing me and I'm not trusting you, I'm not giving you anything.
Right.
It's not going to work. So I think that is so valuable that you do give them that, because they get a sense of how you're taking care of them. Because you're the daddy here.
Right.
You got to let them know that you're protecting them on set no matter what. You're not going to let anything happen to them. So it gives them the permission to go as far as they can. The
biggest compliment I get is when people are just normal moviegoers that come to my screenings. They just go, "Where did you find this actor? Wow, I really like this." How did they take note of the cast?
My work ethic today is better than it was before. But what happens with me is that once I start producing something, once I start creating something, I'll make it all the way to the end. I don't quit, I don't stop, because now at this point I'm so invested. I've already invested a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of people in the process are also helping me too. And it's not that I don't want to let them down. I also don't want to let myself down. And without putting that into words, because sometimes I don't say that out loud, but I think if I think about it, I'm saying I can't let myself down. I know that I have it in me to finish this project, and so I'll finish it. But the way that I work now, to answer your question, the way that I work now is I do a lot of research. I take the time to understand what goes into a particular thing or particular project, and then I just look and see if I can fulfill that, if it's realistic within my own means and with my time.
So you're counting the cost before you make the investment.
For sure. for sure. I'm not going to sacrifice the things that I need to provide for my family. But I still am going to take a risk on myself. It's just a little bit more calculated today.
Also, too, leveraging your connections. So, for example, LinkedIn. If I have a friend who knows the head person at, I don't know, Nike's, say, hey, do you mind giving me an intro? So leveraging that connection, because cold calling is kind of old school. I've done those before, and they're not fun.
No, they're not.
But as a producer, LinkedIn has been my best friend.
That's, I think, what was so painful for me was that I would look at the series of 8 or 10, 12. Every single one of them was terrific. I mean, nailed the joke, had the timing, fully prepared, every single one of them. So what was painful was the showrunner and the directors. We would all make our selections, and then the showrunner was the one who would make his final pick. And all these other people who did wonderful jobs were kind of gone. There was no accumulation. There wasn't like, wow, let's remember this person. I mean, occasionally that does happen. You go, this person was really, really awesome. Let's try to remember. But no one actually writes down the name.
Moving,
I mean, ideally you
stuff.
would write the name down,
Right.
or occasionally I would send a little note to the casting director, go, great casting call, or this guy was awesome. Occasionally if I had the time. Which I think if more of us did that, it would, because I know what that does to people, for people. There was an example where there was 12 women who got in their car, put the makeup, put the clothing, go through traffic, and it was one word. It was like something almost false, and it's like, oops, that was it. Everyone was amazing, fantastic, did a great job. We selected one person. Something else came up, another woman, it was like a teacher role or something, and I go, can we not cast from these women? Or at least call them back for, and it's like, no, we'll just do a separate casting. And it was like, so it's hard. It's hard.
At that point, I was no longer believing that you had to wait on anybody or get a deal. I started finding resources where you could upload your own album, how to produce your own physical CD and DVD. I knew how to hire camera operators. I knew how to edit at this point. I was like, I can kind of do this myself. I don't see why you would need anybody more than you to do this. And so I went for it.
To me, it makes no sense to wait for the system to create these opportunities for us. We have to create them ourselves. We have to create our own content, and we have to support each other. That's all we need, because we already have the buying power and the creativity and the talent.
All of my films are very personal. I use the urban genre as my backdrop. In terms of writing the script, I usually come up with an ending and a beginning very early on. And the idea would just get sparked by the simplest of things. I'll give you an example. Like on my second feature, while I was editing...
Tell us the name of it.
Ghost Town. I had a trilogy of films called The Drive-By Chronicles, and Ghost Town was the second in that trilogy. Ghost Town is based off a part of this city that I grew up in. I didn't grow up in Ghost Town, I grew up in Wilmington, and there was this part of Wilmington where a lot of drug families were conducting business, and for years, decades. And when I was doing Sideways, which was the first film in that series, a newspaper article had come out that the ATF had arrested a lot of the people there. I knew about these guys when I was 7, and now I was in my late 30s at the time, and they finally busted all of them. So I just came up with the idea, what would a love story in that area, what would that be? And so that's how Ghost Town came about. It wasn't necessarily about drug dealers, and yes, they were involved, but it was a love story of these two people coming together and leaving that part of the city. So that's how that one came out. But in terms of writing, for whatever reason, I'll see an ending and I go, that's how I want it to end, this is how I want it to start. And then I have to earn my ending. A script can take, I've written scripts in 10 days, I've written scripts in 3 weeks. This current script I've been working on for past 5 years is like My Godfather 2. It's my opera, my urban opera. I can't get to my ending. So it's just taking me a long time with that one to get there, because I have to earn it or I have to change it, and I'm getting to a point where now I'm not liking the ending as much, so maybe I just take the story and see where it goes.
I was helping a lot of people on the side because I'm really committed to help.
Because you're kind and helpful.
Yes, and then I was on a board of a nonprofit. Like, I was doing a lot of stuff, and there's one event that I put together sort of by myself. Nobody was helping me, and then people weren't being very kind. And he said to me, "Okay, you're done. You're done." First of all, people are taking advantage of you and not appreciating you. And then this is a business, you know. And I think if we open a business, we're actually gonna make a bigger impact.
What generally happens is you're in the middle of your workday, production day, and writing, and I mean you're just inundated, and oh my gosh, now we have to cast this part that's going to work in a day or two. And what I would see the execs do, and sometimes you're looking at it on your iPad, and you open it up, and it's like the part of Kathy, and you have 8 to 10 to 12 choices. You see the little tiny headshots.
Right. The thumbnail.
Yeah, the thumbnail. And I, as an actress, made myself a promise that I would open every single one and look at the auditions. But, other director, executive producers, they would just go, oh, okay, she looks like she might be the part, and skip a bunch. So from the thumbnail, there's already a cut sometimes.
Well, I wasn't afraid of, I didn't become afraid. Like, I have friends who produce shorts who are actors, and they go, man, that thing took out so much out of me. I don't think I could ever do that again. It's just too much. For me, I thought to myself, I was like, what else can I do? And so it just sparked more hunger in me. Like, what else can I do?
You do some really interesting camera
Compositions,
shots.
yeah.
Yes, I love it. I am so into Korean dramas.
Oh, wow.
And what I love about it is that some of them you could see that they storyboarded every shot. Every shot looks like a picture, and some of your work looks like pictures. So do you storyboard, or is that just
No,
you guys
I don't
instinctively
storyboard.
doing?
Because I write all of my scripts, by the time I get to set, they are storyboarded, but I know exactly in my head what I'm going for. And my DPs have all liked the fact that I know what lenses I want. Now, some directors don't. Some directors care less. They say, this is what I want, they let the DP interpret it. But I tell the DP exactly what I want. And every DP I've worked with has appreciated that. The only time that I would say I didn't do that was with Marigold. I had to trust Scott more, and Scott's a great shot composition. He does great shot compositions. I attribute Marigold a lot to him. And what's interesting is he's there, and maybe I see he's off a little bit, and I'll just tap him on the shoulder, and he'll make the adjustment. When I work with Scott, it's like we're one, because I'm not in Village, I'm over his shoulder. But with all the other ones, I know when I want to use a 35 to a 28 to an 85, and I can call those things out. And a lot of the DPs I work with really appreciate that I know my lenses, I know,
Important stuff.
But I don't
Excellent.
storyboard. I don't shot list. I only shot listed and storyboarded for one film. That was because the DP requested that. For us to have a decent working relationship, I accommodated him on that one because I knew we didn't have a lot of time or money. And so I'm like, if this is what you need, then let's do it. I don't necessarily like to work that way, but let's do it.
I think that if you're using somebody's script that it has already been written, it's a very different process than if you want a writer to create something for you, which is usually the route that we go.
To have somebody create something for you. Okay.
Sometimes either we have an idea that we want to work around it, or sometimes we just give the writer parameters about certain things that we know are ideal for what we're doing, whether because of budget or timing, location, whatever it is. So many times we would go on, there's one particular writer that we have worked with several times, and we would be like, okay, 3 actors, 1 Latina, 1 location, horror. And with that, he would come with ideas. How about this? How about that? So that would be what has worked for us the best. When we take somebody's script and be like, okay, we're going to do this, I find that there's less of that creating process from the beginning. So I feel I'm personally more engaged when from the get-go we go and say, I think we want to do something around vampires.
When it's truly collaborative as opposed to you getting somebody's project.
He said, listen, we have money for 3 films, and if we like what you're doing, you could be one of them. And I said, okay. So I'm working on the script right now. I'll have it to you by the end of April. This was March. And then I had to get to work. I actually had somebody that was going to give me $50,000 to make a feature film. So that's how I got distribution for that first project. In self-distribution for my short films, I got the attention of a distributor. The key to distribution in the independent world literally is genre specific. If you're doing science fiction, if you're doing horror, you're not going to have a problem getting distribution. Those aren't my genres. And I've tried to come up with ideas, but you never want to make something just so it can get distribution, right? I've been fortunate that the urban genre is my genre. I grew up with this genre. I love this genre, and I love making movies in this genre. I was just fortunate that it is a popular thing. I mean, you have Queen of the South on TV, you have Narcos, you have Mayans MC now. It's a popular genre in spite of the blowback they get for stereotypical characters. I love it. I love the characters, and I love the drama of it. That's essentially what I always tell people. If you're doing your coming of age story that your grandfather told you when you grew up, like, it's really going to be very hard for you to get distribution. If you have Brad Pitt attached to that project, it's going to be hard to get distribution. You have to look at what is being bought out there. I'm not saying you have to cater your creative vision to that. I'm just saying know ahead of time, is this going to sell? And sometimes it's hard. Marigold the Matador, I know was not going to sell. I knew it, but I had to tell it anyway. Now I have it, and I'm focused on Netflix. You know, now there are avenues. It's not really distribution, it's just streaming. You can get it on Amazon Prime, you can get it on iTunes, your film, you can get it out that way. But true distribution is the company is putting some time and effort and money into promoting your movie. There's several ways to get your film out into the world now, but essentially it is through streaming. Netflix is the only one that pays up front for their content, which is what I'm saving Marigold for. That's the only thing. Counterpunch was a boxing film I did that got on Netflix. It ran for 2 years, and we didn't go to Sundance. There were Sundance films that didn't run that long on Netflix. It was a boxing drama, and that genre is popular. So it really is genre specific in terms of what you're doing, but you can get your stuff on for small fees on Amazon Prime and on iTunes, and a lot of filmmakers I know do that. Is there a lot of money involved in that? Not really.
I think find the right people, have a mission that's bigger than yourself. It's not about you anymore,
Right.
and you want to keep going. And then also have integrity, and also you have to have trust that the work that you're doing.
Trust in what?
Trust and grace. Every successful person out there will tell you there's a time where there's only so much you can do. You gotta really step back and let grace do its thing. Whatever it is for you. For me, it's God. You know, for him, whatever. Just really trust that if you have integrity, you're taking actions every single day, you're doing something that's good, things will work out. But you have to let them. You have to let them work out.
Mm-hmm.